Welcome to my channel. My name is Marie and I love to read books, so that's the reason why I wanted to make this channel. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about how you can get back into reading or how you can get into reading in general. I noticed that a lot of people struggle to get back into reading or to get into reading, and that is exactly what was the case for me. So that was my struggle also, because when I went to college, I didn't really feel like reading. I didn't feel like I had the brain capacity to be reading because of all the studying you have to do and textbooks that you have to read. It leaves you very little motivation to be reading in your spare time. So that's why I really didn't read for like the last 8 years maybe. So recently this year I got back into reading, and I wanted to share with you tips that I noticed that helped me to get back into reading. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So as I explained, I've always really been a reader at heart. So I really loved reading throughout my childhood. It started when my dad read me and my sisters bedtime stories. He invented some stories. He really made us feel like this made-up world that he created. And we really loved to go to the library with him and with my sisters, and we always picked like a stack of books that we chose and then swapped with each other so we could read all the books. And it was such a fun time and we really enjoyed it, and both my sisters also really like to read. So I think it's through our dad that we developed this love for reading. Don't mind my little dog, he just wants to play. So I really loved reading as a child. So it started with like the Harry Potter series, books about Roald Dahl, Dirk Brakke, like all these authors that did amazing work and wrote a lot of great novels and books. And so I read throughout high school. I really loved reading then too. But then when college started, I really felt like I lost my liking of reading also. So recently I got back into it, and how that happened I will tell you in a little bit. I felt like for a long time I didn't have the headspace and the mental capacities to be reading. I felt like I didn't enjoy reading because it took a lot of my concentration while I had to focus on other things. And maybe it's very relatable for some of you guys who are going through college or who are having a lot of stuff to do in their life. So what was really important for me to get back into reading was getting in the right mindset. I felt like I had to be in the right headspace to be able to get into reading. But actually it is more important to view at the way that you look at reading, because if you see it like something that is a lot of work or is not something you are going to enjoy, or you would be rather be doing this brainless activity like watching TV, and of course you are not going to enjoy it. So what really motivated me to get back into reading was like finding the things that sparked my interest to get back into reading. It started with like watching YouTube videos, watching vlogs about reading, about the different books that are now trending. Through watching the YouTube videos, it really sparked my interest again to get to reading. I think another important point is that you rekindle your original excitement for readings. What drives you, what gives you pleasure, what motivates you to get back into reading. It's very important to discover those things again. Like maybe you would like to go into some alternate world like the fantasy genre, or maybe you like to get lost in a romantic feeling, a romantic story of some people. It's very important that you research or discover a little bit of your taste, because if you try to get back into reading and you're reading a book that you're like not that excited about, then the chances are bigger you will drop the book and the reading habit in general. I'm discovering a lot of things about myself that make me happy, because I read this book about Ikigai. For people who don't know what Ikigai means, it's a Japanese term where it's kind of a lifestyle through which you are searching for the things that you enjoy the most in life, which give your life meaning and direction. So it's about researching or discovering the things that bring you joy and you actually enjoy doing throughout your life. I went through a little bit of a self-discovery, and I realized that I have always loved reading. Reading is also something is fairly easy to pick up again through adulthood, when you read a lot as a child. So I thought it was the perfect thing to be doing again in my adulthood. So what I did was I started reading something very light. It's very important that you find something that will not overwhelm you in any kind. So for example, I started my reading journey again with the Throne of Glass series. I highly recommend this series, by the way. I have always been a lover of fantasy books. I read the Harry Potter series, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. That's really my kind of genre. Also in films, in movies. I really love like the fantasy aspect of things. So I did some research. I read the Goodreads reviews. Also a very important tip is to read Goodview. Okay. I read Goodreads reviews to look a bit at what the reviews say, what are some things that I'm probably going to enjoy. They are always explained so very well on Goodreads, and you get a rating, which also helps to see which books do good or are liked by the general population. So that's why I picked out the Throne of Glass series. I have only read 2 books of them, so the Assassin's Blade, because it's like the prequel to the Throne of Glass series, so you get a little bit of the insight of Celaena Sardothion's past. And this is the first official book in the series. But I also have Crown of Midnight. This is the next one I'm going to read. But the first time I read Throne of Glass, I listened it via an audiobook. So I listened to the story, and I discovered that when you read it physically, like in a physical copy of a book, that you remember the things much better, or especially with the names and such. In a fantasy world, when you hear different names, it's very different than when you can watch or you can read the names. So it really helps me to remember the things better. And I'm now on my second reread of this book, because I'm very motivated to continue the series. I really want to know the most of the details that I can possibly get through reading the physical copy, so I can continue to the next one in the series. So what I was talking about was it's important that you find something that is a light read to get back into reading, because if you're, for example, starting with a book like Sapiens, I would not recommend this, because Sapiens is a very good book. It's very informative, it's very well written, but maybe it's not something you would like to start with, except when this is the genre that you're very attracted to or very motivated to read. But I think in general I would pick or recommend something more young adults, because when you read young adult books, it's very fast-paced generally. It's very easy to follow. The story is very not too complex. So I would really recommend starting with a YA series or a YA book. But of course, it depends on your likings and what you like to read. But if you like the fantasy, the romance, the romantasy, the literary fiction genre, all of those things, I would highly recommend starting with a YA book or a YA series. For me, it also helps to read the first book of a series, because then when you like the first book, it really motivates to read the rest of the series. And if you like the first book of a series, the chances are very high that you will read the other books of the series. And if you're looking to get back into reading, that is like the most ideal outcome you can have, because it will get you started to get back into a longer series or to read more books of that kind. So I will tell you a little bit about the books that led me into starting reading again. So I have already talked about the Throne of Glass series. Recently also read If He Had Been With Me and If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nolan. These are two YA romance books. I really enjoyed these books because, for one thing, they have like the easy breezy reading of the YA genre. So it's very easily written, it's very fast-paced. It's also kind of slice of life, so you get like an insight of the daily activities, the daily thoughts that the main characters have in the books. So it's very easy to follow, to comprehend. But the other thing is like the emotional investment, I think, or I feel like this is something that I'm really searching for in a romance book. I really have to care about the characters in the book. I really have to feel like what they're going through or why they doing the things that they do. And with these books, I really felt it, and I really felt connected to the characters. I especially really loved Finn, the guy in the books. Those were the books that have really gotten me back into reading, and when I think about them now, it's been a while since I read them. I really think about the books a lot. I also constantly recommend these books to people. I really enjoyed reading these books, and they really motivated me to get back into it, because it gives you a vision of like all the different books that are left there waiting for you to read, and it really gives you this lingering feeling of like, I want to read this book and this book and this book, and it really motivates to discover a lot of other books in the realm of books. So the books that I recently read were the If He Had Been With Me series, The Throne of Glass, The Picture of Dorian Gray I read recently, because I'm not really that big on classics. I really don't like the obnoxious literary fiction genre. I really don't connect with it that much. But recently I read Oscar Wilde. I was very motivated to read it because I had it, and I was told that it was a good book, and eventually it was a good book, but still not one of my favorite genres. The other thing that really motivated me to get back into reading is joining a book club. I didn't found it because we already knew the place, but me and my boyfriend, we sometimes visit this game cafe in our neighborhood, and they organized a book club since this year September. So I joined the book club. Now we have a monthly meeting, so that is also something that really motivates me, because I love connecting with people over books. That is also part of the reason that I made this video, because I really don't know a lot of people who enjoy books like me, and this is one way to get some form of connection hopefully with some other people who really enjoy reading books. The next book we are going to read in the book club is this one. It is, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I think it's Piranesi, from Susanna Clarke. I read like a short summary of it and it piqued my interest, and it got some good reviews on Goodreads, so I can't wait to read it. I ordered it from Vinted. I don't know if you know it, but it's like a second-hand website where you can also find books. So that is also a tip. Don't buy new copies of books when you can find it online second-hand. So this is the next book that I'm going to read, and I'm very excited about it. Join a book club. It will really motivate you to read, because then you have a deadline, you have people around you which you can talk to about books. You can even meet up to read something together, and that is also something that motivates me, is that some other people are also going to read it and you want to be able to keep up with them and to talk about the book with them, and also because the book itself, it really speaks to me. And it's also a great way to be forming some new friendships over a common interest like reading books. So it's a little bit dependent on what you're looking for or what the reason would be for joining the book club, of course. Another thing that really got me into reading again, now I think about it, is listening to audiobooks. I started reading books again through listening to audiobooks. The thing about audiobooks is that it's very easy. You don't have to do a lot actively because you're listening passively to the book. You don't have to focus on it while reading it, but you have to focus it, of course, in your mind. The reading of an audiobook is very much more simple, I think. It's very much more motivating to read it, because you can do it while you're being productive, or while you're doing your chores, while you're walking the dog, for example. So easy to get into it, and that is also the way that I started getting back into it. I started with like reading or listening to some memoirs. I really love memoirs because I'm very interested in listening to people's life stories. I'm also a psychologist, so it comes in handy that I'm interested in that. And then I went on to reading fantasy books, literary fiction books, and it really motivated me also to get to the next stage and to take on a physical copy. So I still read some audiobooks. Now, for example, I'm reading the Half-Blood series. It's very entertaining, and sometimes when people read the stories, it makes the stories come more alive in your brain because they do like different voices. Sometimes it's like playing a movie inside of your brain when you're listening to audiobooks, especially when you have a good imagination for yourself. But to really understand or grasp the complexity of a world or of a book, I feel like the physical copies do it for me better. But it is a good way to get back into it, to get back into reading. So that wraps up this video for today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you want to see some more videos, or if you would like to see something different, like maybe a TBR, a fall video, like a reading vlog. Let me know what you would like to see, and I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye!